Are we not going yet? Am I allowed to talk?
Back to the Great Lakes Truck Series, starting off season number 6 here tonight at, of course, Daytona International Speedway. And I'm joined in the booth by Alex. Alex, how we doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Back to the Great Lakes Truck Series. It's been a good minute here, but we're back to see the great action of this series. It's always great fun to watch, and where is a better place for some amazing action than Daytona International Speedway? Boy, Kyle, I'm excited for this one tonight.
Always a good race here at Daytona Beach, USA. Here we are about to start duel number 1 of 2 here for the Patti Engineering 200 to start off the season. We usually start off the season with these 2 heat, or I like to call them duel races here at Daytona, doing the pace lap around the track. And starting on the pole for this duel number 1 looks to be Ross Brockman and the number 52 on the inside. And then on his outside, you have Matthew Durr and a couple of different names up here at the top. Look at Matt McDermott. I think this might be his first start here in the Great Lakes Truck Series here tonight.
Yeah, it seems to be a little new name to me, and a bunch of classic veterans here at the front of the field as well, with a new number, Nathan Nicholson, who's outside in that 99. That's a new look for a driver last year who pretty much created some of the most action we saw on track at moments, and plenty of fantastic drivers behind him as well. And along with us in here is driver who will be in the next heat coming up is Gavin Fitzgerald. So Gavin, tell us about how these trucks are behaving at this track.
You know, I think they're behaving, the same as they usually do. I mean, it could obviously be just me, but I do feel like the bumper hook is a lot stronger this year than previous years. So who knows? These heats will probably be a good place for the drivers to figure it out as we're going green here.
Green flag here in heat number 1. A good start from our front row. Only 8 laps here to determine the starting lineup for the race. And also this kind of gives you a little bit of a feel of how the draft and how your other drivers are going to work with you throughout the race here.
Yeah, initially, I feel like you're going to start to see that outside lane really make some progress, as it's the easiest lane to really get organized and make a lot of moves, as obviously we're seeing the front 2 already clear the bottom lane. Nicholson's going to go for it. Looking on the bottom, he's just not going to have enough of a run to make a big pass, but he's going to get the speed in the corner, and that's where we're really going to see the bottom take over, is going to be running that bottom lane through the corners and making up all the time, but they're going to lose it out here down the straights.
Nicholson looking to lead lap number 1, but it looks like Matt Durr is going to take it away from him on the high side with a good push from the number 91 of Austin Moore. That high side working well, and another unfamiliar name up there looks to be the number 29 of Nathan Jump up there in the 3rd position, 3rd driver on the outside, possibly making his first start as well.
Yeah, this is Nathan Jump's first start here. He ran a couple recruitment races with us in the offseason. Looks to be very strong coming into Daytona here.
It's a good track to get your name out there as well. It's very easy to really put your name right at the front of the field. You might have some guys sitting in the back trying to keep steady, but if you want to get yourself out there right here early on in the race, running at the front of the field is a good way to do it, as a strong run on the bottom sends Nicholson out to the front. But again, the duel from the outside lane is going to pull him back in line.
Yeah, that outside line is very, very strong. If you can get everyone lined up, to me, it looks like the outside line is definitely a lot more lined up than the inside. As you see the 35 there kind of jump out of line, stuff like that will kill the momentum of whatever line you're in.
Yeah, the outside line and the inside line just going back and forth right now. Race leader Nicholson. Ross was peeking to the inside for a second there. Thought better of it. It's going to continue to push the 99. But Matthew Durr leading on the high side, looking to jump to the inside, comes right back in front of Austin Moore. What does he decide here? Austin Moore, he has to make a decision as well.
Behind him.
Back behind him.
Oh no!
No
Big wreck
caution in these
behind.
heat races.
And no cautions in the heat races. The 29 has some pretty decent damage. He blinked out for a second and came back. Has a pretty decent amount of damage on the number 29 machine. But 5 drivers up here at the front. You have Nicholson, you have Durr, you have Brockman, you have McDermott, and you have the number 91 of Austin Moore up here.
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware here, even for the drivers who end up wrecking out here, they're still going to make the field. They've all made the field for the race. This only determines the starting position, which can determine what kind of action we're seeing at the front. But it looks like Durr wanted to get the lead, but got in the wall with a block from Nicholson to try and cover his right rear.
And look who has entered the conversation. The driver, the number 27, Mr. Excitement. He won Daytona last year in the Truck Series, I think, or was it the Premier Series? I know he won Daytona last season, but I know he's super good on these super speedways and he knows how to work that draft. So a driver to watch out for when we get to the main event.
I believe he won Talladega, Kyle. I believe it was Talladega he won, going a couple races before the playoffs started. He won that race and punched his ticket into the championship, which obviously he made it all the way to the Final Four and had a shot at Jake Miller.
And Barbachelata got really hot at the end of last season, and we're going to see what he can do this season here in heat number 1. And Durr's going to jump to the high side. Austin Moore is now going to lead the inside 3v3 at the moment, but Ross is falling back on that high side.
Yeah, you got to be careful to not drag too far away from the pack. It's quite easy to end up losing the drafter. He's not going to, but 3 wide as Nicholson takes it to the inside, and Matthew Durr leaves him out to dry. He should be able to get back in line here, but that's going to allow the bottom to get a big run and blow past all of them.
Well, as Matt Durr is left completely out to dry by Nathan Nicholson, obviously Matt Durr replacing Nathan Nicholson at Dark Horse Motorsports this season.
Yeah, a lot of different changes in for the teams, and a lot more new teams here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. Of course, going to be growing over a lot of those teams during our broadcast here tonight. But it's exciting to see a lot more teams here in the Great Lakes Truck Series this season.
Yeah, for sure. All the major teams, or almost every team in the league, has had a shakeup of their roster of some sort. Just to name a couple off the top of my head, I know Nathan Nicholson departed Dark Horse Motorsports and joined 2511. William Barbachelata leaving Spectrum and moving to a part-time schedule. Stuff like that. There's a lot of changes to go over. I don't have the full list in front of me, but I'm sure you guys will talk about it a lot during the race.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of big names moving around all over the place, including a brand new team in Six Start Motorsports that really dragged on a bunch of new names into the sport. We were talking about one of them earlier, Nathan Jump. He's a part of that group as well. Interested to see how that team ends up working out, as it's a lot of more unfamiliar names coming into the series looking to take it on, and I'm curious how, I guess, the hometown heroes of the Great Lakes Truck Series deal with those guys.
Yeah, it's always great to see a bunch of new teams coming in. Obviously creates a lot more competition, and on tracks like Daytona and Talladega, it makes a huge difference. Your teammates make a huge difference on whether or not you can win the race or not.
Bit of scrambling there from Barbachelata. He's going to be able to get back in line. Almost made contact with Matthew Durr on the outside, and connection problems for our leader, Austin Moore. But Nathan Nicholson wants to take the lead before it happens, stay ahead of it, but you got to watch out, because if you start blinking, those guys do not want to start pushing you, because you really risk a chance of wrecking if you get too close to that guy when he goes away. Oh, and Nicholson gets loose. He's in the outside wall. Contact with Matthew Durr.
As the 35 of Matt McDermott here looking to have a run as Austin Moore's blinking out. Now's a really bad time to blink out. Who's going to get it? Looks like it's going to be Austin Moore.
Austin Moore. Look like he got to the line first, the number 91 machine. And he's going to steal heat number 1.
16 thousandths of a second over Matt McDermott with a strong run here in the first heat. That's already starting off some good action, despite this not meaning anything for points for these guys. We're already seeing big accidents before the race has even begun. Boys, it's going to be a crazy night.
It's going to be a crazy night indeed. It always is here at Daytona International Speedway. And Off to a good start here in heat number one, and Austin Moore able to steal away the victory in a great three-wide finish after the first 8-lap heat, and about to enter heat number two. And I think you're in that heat, aren't you, Gavin?
Yeah, I am. I'm heading down now. Good luck to you guys tonight.
Appreciate your time, Gavin.
Yes, and good luck to our driver there, Gavin Fitzgerald, starting in the 17th position, starting back in this field here. Could be very easily involved in an incident, but maybe that's part of the strategy. You might want to start the back of this big opening race of the season and leave your truck viable towards the end to at least have a good piece underneath you to race towards the front.
Yeah, I feel like these heats, at least for me, the way I would look at these heats is just I'm just using them to prepare myself for the main race and figure out what I can and can't do.
Yeah, and a couple people that aren't really going to have as much ability to do that are our top two qualifiers, who were Michael Madden and Eric Keff. They automatically head to the feature on the front row, so they do not get to participate in this heat, which is good that they get to start out front ahead of whatever could happen in the mid-pack, but they don't get the practice of running with all these guys in a tight competitive field. So I'm interested to see how that works out for the both of them.
Yeah, I think that experience is way more valuable, especially at a track like this where track position isn't as big of a factor. Like me personally, I like to run Daytona Talladega. I like to hang out at the back pretty much the whole race, and then 20, 30 to go, begin to make my moves to the front, because you can do that at a track like this. It's a draft based track, and as long as you make your passes clean and thoroughly, you can make your way up to the front in just a few laps.
See, I sit here on the other end of the spectrum where I find that Daytona is, because of its narrowness, ends up becoming very difficult to make maneuvers, even when it's too wide, as you often see guys really shooken up and the pack really moving around a lot, and you kind of risk yourself a lot trying to make all those passes. So I personally like to run at the front of the field. It's a unique, differing type of philosophy here at this racetrack, but I'm interested to see how both of them work out for these drivers, as we've seen plenty of chaos here. All right.
About to get heat number two started right here. Elliot Henderson's going to lead him to the green. Not sure if you guys can see what's going on, but I'm going to announce as if you can. Elliot Henderson leading the field on the inside, on his outside. Looks to be Christopher Heller in a purple machine. 00 behind him. Aiden DuPont and Josh Cottle back there as well. Should be a good heat. A lot of big names in heat number two here.
Yeah, a lot of big heavy hitters as well, as we see Elliot Henderson at the front of the field. He's one of the drivers I expect to run very, very well. He's pretty much been consistent most of last year and is looking to start off the season quite well. But that outside lane making the move with Christopher Heller, one of our stronger plate racing drivers, he's going to take the move to the bottom in front of Elliot Henderson and get a push from him, kind of leaving Josh Cottle out to dry on the outside. But that's going to stack up the bottom, and Elliot's going to take it to the top now.
Elliott making the move to the top, then jumps down to the bottom. He's going to get past the number 11 of Heller on the inside with the help from the 00 of Aiden DuPont.
We're already seeing a lot of shuffling going on. Jake Miller on the radio being a little bit upset at how aggressive these drivers are being, despite it just being a heat race. He wants to kind of retain a good starting position up there, currently sitting around the 5th position, or 6th or 7th position, depending on where this line goes. But 3 wide at the front. DuPont's going to go under the line a little bit to get around Elliot Henderson, leave him out in the middle to dry. That's going to allow Christopher Heller to get to the front, but Josh Cottle is having none of it and goes around his outside to take the lead.
And right behind him is the reigning champ, Jake the Snake Miller. He's looking to keep up his hot streak and maybe win the season opener. He's going to get help from his teammate in the 37. Here comes Miller and Henderson now on the high side.
Yeah, what a dominant run towards the end of that season for Jake Miller. Already starting off this heat race, leading it and looking strong already. Don't typically see him trying to take the front of the field at these plate races, usually getting left out to dry as he's about to get right here, but they're crashing behind him.
Is in the wall, there they go wrecking. Looks like the 55 is involved. It looks like Salomon was involved. Might have been, I think I saw Anderson Bowen involved as well in the 76 target machine. No cautions once again in these heat races. It's green all the way through. They will continue on.
That almost saved Jake Miller there as he was about to get passed by the pack, but they stacked up behind him, killed the run. But out front, Christopher Heller making the move around the outside of Josh Cottle. Cottle's going to get a little help from Lewis Woodall behind. He's going to give him a push back. Jake, a little scattering up towards the top lane, a little disorganized. That's allowed Josh Cottle get back to the front, but here comes the run from the outside lane.
Cottle goes to the inside, goes to the high side. Now he's going to be stuck in the sucker hole. Heller on the high side, Woodall on the inside. The 0-0 of DuPont's trying to clear, but now DuPont's going to get left by himself on the high side, it looks like. Henderson jumps up to the high side now. A lot of switching of positions back here. Almost contact with DuPont and Miller. And Woodall is loving this. Lewis Woodall is leading the field.
3 wide, a couple rows deep it was for a second there. And there's a couple drivers that started further in the back. A couple rows behind is, Matthew Rodriguez who started way in the back, but we're 3 wide ahead in the third row. Heller takes it to the outside, but has zero help at all. Kingcott's going to get the help from Jake Miller. Going to try and get that outside lane moving again as they're making a lot of progress on these leaders. Here comes Brett Kingcott.
And the push on the bottom is strong right now. Woodall leading still on the inside, but Kingcott and the number 4 of Miller trying to pass him on the high side. Woodall getting help from the number 41 of Nick Hansen. He's been pushing him well in that Sheets number machine. 41 machine. There goes Fritz. Fritz goes spinning in the back. Looks like it's the 000 as well of Jensic. He might have got, I think that was him as well that got spun around.
Plenty of chaos going on, but a little bit more organized than the first heat so far. I'm waiting to see the big crash that happens at the front of the field, because if the first heat was anything to say about it, the second heat ought to be just as crazy. With only a few laps to go here, Kingcott leads with Woodall behind, but it's getting squirrely behind him as they're 3 wide in the back. Fitzgerald round the outside, 4 wide with Elliott up the inside of the 22. Oh my goodness gracious.
The beginning of this lap, Fitzgerald was pretty much at the back of this pack. Now he's trying to get up here to the front in that 14 machine. That giant Tiger 14 looking amazingly strong on that high side.
And he's going to get a little bit of help from Christopher Heller, and looking like the 30 car back there as well, looking to help them out, but not making so much progress as of yet as the bottom and middle lane just pull away a bit. Heller's going to drop him off and move back to the bottom. Still pretty dead even behind Kingcott as Woodall and Jake Miller are pretty much stuck shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, and there goes Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald is now spinning, and he's going to straighten it back up, but you hate to see it. Had a lot of speed there. We'll see him back in the feature. 1.5 laps remaining here at Daytona in duel number 2. Kingcott leading on the inside with the help of Woodall. On the high side, you have Jake Miller with the help from Michael Barbagelata.
Yeah, Michael Barbagelata, a name we haven't seen before, but Elliott Henderson crashing.
Heller.
Oh, those are some strong contenders wrecked out of this one. Now it's a 4-car race if those 2 behind can't get it organized. And we're on the last lap, ladies and gentlemen. This is for a second row starting position on the outside lane. It's between Kingcott and Miller, but can anybody behind make a move?
Gonna have to see. Kingcott gets a little push from Woodall. They're gonna be 3 wide. Jake Miller has the lead on the high side with the help from Barbagelata. What will Miller do? Is he gonna stick with the number 22 on the high side? Is he gonna jump down to the bottom?
Is Michael Barbagelata going to take it, but they're 3 wide behind him. He might not have too much help. He's going to try to go the outside. Rodriguez in the wall. Barbagelata spun. He's in the outside wall. Somehow didn't take more cars with him. Jake Miller looks like he's going to win heat race number 2 with Lewis Woodall and Brett Kingcott behind.
Jake the Snake Miller is celebrating on the radio, and he's continuing this momentum that he had at the end of last season after snagging his first championship. And he's won duel number 2 heading in to the 80-lap race here in a few. Great job from Jake Miller, able to hold off those drivers there in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much ideal for him. He was late in the outside lane. I think that's something we're going to have to watch out for. Is I feel like if you're behind on that outside lane, you're leading it. That's the place that's primed to win, as the leader has to either make an aggressive block or just give up the position and get past. But He's celebrating a little bit early. I would be careful because we still have 80 laps after this in a racing event, and anything could happen in that.
Anything could happen in those 80 laps, especially at a track like Daytona or Talladega, where it's just chaos. Especially when you get these wrecks at the front of the pack, you're just gonna have a massive accident. We expect possibly a couple of massive accidents tonight, Alex.
Oh, well, we've already seen a couple of them in the heat races, and mind you, we've only run 16 laps. This race coming up is 5 times that amount, so ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. There is going to be plenty of action here to come as these drivers are getting gridded up for the feature. And maybe we should go over this grid order before these guys take our breath away with any more action.
43 laps. I mean, 43 drivers in this field here tonight. And looks like on the pole, we're going to have Michael Madden in the 07, a great qualifying effort. And then on his high side, it's Mr. Pink, Eric Kep, a good start to the season, starting on the outside of row number 1 here at Daytona International.
Yeah, and behind them are dual winners. Austin Moore in the 91 starting on the inside, and Jake Miller starting on the outside with a bit of a tooting his horn, you would say, as he's excited to get with this one.
In row number 3, we have an interesting row. The newcomer, Matt McDermott, after a great heat effort, starting in 5th. Then on his outside, we have Lewis Woodall, who led a couple laps in heat number 2 moments ago.
Couple strong drivers in their respective heats. Ross Brockman and Brett Kingcott starting behind them. Interested to see what comes out of the two of them. Maybe a sneak victory from one of them.
In the next row, last season's Final Four contender, William Barbagelata, aka Mr. Excitement, starting in the 9th position. And then on his outside in the 10th position, you have the number 32 short track expert turned super speedway expert, Josh Cottle.
And just behind them, Matthew Durr, we saw run very, very strong in his respective heat, get wrecked out very late. And then starting behind him will be the 57 of Matthew Rodriguez. I'm pretty sure he won a race here in the Great Lakes Truck Series at a super speedway, so could be a bit of a dark horse in this race to take the victory.
Matt Rodriguez, always a strong driver, did snag his victory at Vegas last season, but a very strong super speedway driver nonetheless. Starting in row number 7 on the inside of the 99 machine, you have Nathan Nicholson. Interested to see what he can do. And then starting in 14th, the other Barbagelata, newcomer Michael Barbagelata, starting in 14th in the 22.
Just behind them, a bit of a new name here, Adolfo Delgado in the 8 car, starting on the inside of Rod Fausna.
In the next row, row number 9 on the inside, in the number 97 machine, it's Aaron Duclos making a return here tonight. And then starting 18th is Nick Hansen in the 41, who looked pretty strong in heat number 2.
And just behind them, we've got a bit of a classic Great Lakes Truck Series drivers here, and Shane Neiswanger, who made a pretty decent playoff run at the end of last season. Sadly, was not able to make it to the Final Four, I don't believe, so he's going to look to start this season with a bit of redemption to try and make it into that Final Four. And Gavin Fitzgerald, who made the playoffs last year as well, but sadly didn't get as strong of a run as I imagined he hoped. Once again, another driver looking to have a better run this season.
In the next row, row number 11 on the inside, and 21st, you have the number 28 of James Shiflett. And then on the outside, looks to be Jory Gotham, another newcomer here to the Great Lakes Truck Series, and the number 39 machine.
And just behind them, again, another newcomer, Nathan Jump, a part of that brand new team. Started out his heat towards the front of the field, but very quickly got into an accident and couldn't run very well. And on his outside, another Final Four contender for the championship last season, Christopher Heller, who already looks strong in his heat, but got wrecked out and is starting towards the back.
Next row, in row number 13, on the inside in the number 7, you have Cody Giles. And on the outside, you have Elliot Henderson in the number 37. Always strong anywhere we go. Multiple championships.
And driver behind them, Ashton Loss, another playoff contender from last season, looked very strong in several races last year. Didn't really see him in the heat races too much. Could have gotten wrecked out a bit early, so he's looking to make a bit of an impression coming to this event. Maybe his strategy might be to stay in the back, and to his outside, another name a bit new to this series, Sean Farr in the 84.
Next row number 15 on the inside. Last season's playoff Final Four contender, Zachary Henry on the inside of the number 12 machine, starting 29th. And then on the outside of the number 55, starting 30th, is Sal Solomon.
And starting just behind them, again, playoff contender. A lot of guys here deep in the field. Brandon Barkowski looking to make an impression this year, but is going to already be on the back foot with this back starting position. And to his outside, Anderson Bowen in the 76.
In the next row, starting 33rd, is the number 21 of RJ Williams. And then in the 000, it looks to be Sean Jensick.
And then just behind them, you have the 3 of Jordan Gonzalez. Had a few flashes last year and looking to start off this race better. But again, another driver starting in the back with Aiden DuPont. I remember last season, I'm pretty sure he was the preseason Thunder winner here at Daytona and had a strong run in the heat race. So he is a guy starting from the back looking to get a win here.
In the next row, starting 37th, you have the number 10 of Hunter Brittle. And on the outside, you have Breyer Fritz.
And just behind them, we've got Michael Senzi and Hunter Madalinas, a couple drivers stranded back here at the back of the field. Either their strategy is going to be to stay in the back here, or we're going to see some action as they move their way to the front.
And then finishing up the field, we have Steve McLean in 41st, Trent Curtis in 42nd, and then Andrew Megograngle. I'm sorry if I butchered that one, but he will be starting 43rd in the number 94 machine as the pace truck pulls off to begin the season. Green flag is about to come out for the 07 of Michael Madden. It is waving in the air here for the 07 and the 63. Green flag is out for the first time this season. Kept getting a huge push from Miller right from the start.
Yeah, Miller, we know, an aggressive pusher, an aggressive driver, so he's going to give a very aggressive shove to Eric Keff, but Eric Keff is going to dive into the bottom, kind of leave Jake Miller with almost no help behind, as Lewis Woodall is almost a car length behind him. That's going to have that outside lane really struggle, but Jake Miller is holding on for the moment, but he's going to start falling back in a minute here, as pretty much the entire field is really divided out so far.
Yeah, it looks like some drivers are trying to drop to the back and might be trying out my strategy, while some other drivers are staying up at the front and trying Alex's strategy. Just varying strategies here at Daytona. You see it here at the beginning of the races, especially. And Eric Kepp, he might be one of the... Oh, I think he might have gotten a black flag. I think Eric Kepp got a black flag, possibly beating the leader to the line on the initial start.
Oh, that's a really painful thing to start to have. See, what we're dealing with here is iRacing added a brand new rule, the restart zone. Now the leader controls the restarts, and one of the big penalties that's come out of it with the second place car is that if you jump ahead of the leader before they launch, you are very likely to get a black flag, and I believe that's what may have happened there to Eric Keff.
Get those mistakes out of the way early. Very rare mistake for Eric Kepp, but very early on in the race, he can come back from that, and I don't think he'll go a lap down for that as well, so he'll be hoping on a caution so he doesn't go a lap down. But Michael Madden leading the field here in lap number 2 with a good push from Austin Moore. Jake Miller right behind him in 3rd. Then you have Ross Brockman in 4th. Then the battle is on for 5th between Delgado and McDermott. There's Kepp going a lap down.
Oh, man, already going a lap down. What a disastrous start there for Eric Keff. Well, he's hopefully looking for a caution here, as he should be the first car lap down for a long while here, as we don't expect anybody to drop off the pack very soon. But so far, it looks like at least the front of the field is trying to calm it down a little bit, staying single file around the bottom.
I'm watching the back of the pack as well, and the back of the pack is just trying to settle themselves out, trying to figure out where they want to be in line. You see them just kind of file out very early on in this race, and you see some pretty smart driving for the most part. Drivers just trying to jump in line and try to save their trucks for maybe later on in the event.
I was seeing a little bit of 3 wide towards the middle to back of the pack early on in the race, but everybody's pretty much sorted it out to either single file or being double wide here, with no drivers really taking any unnecessary risks. But it looks like 5th in line either got shuffled out the 8 car, or he took the outside lane. That's going to allow Lewis Woodall in the first 2x2 battle on the racetrack to take the outside with the 35 behind him, giving him a good push.
And Delgado leading that high side, McDermott right behind him, and Cottle's trying to join them as well on that high side. Is that enough to maybe make some momentum? For now, it is. Delgado making moves on the high side, getting past a couple of drivers here in 3 and 4, and now he's trying to maybe take the race lead from Michael Madden.
Well, I guess you can forget about calming it down. This driver right here wants to take the lead. Adolfo Delgado already going for it with a bit of help from Matt McDermott behind him. That's an interesting combo that I'm looking at, as those are a couple names that we're not familiar with here at the Great Lakes Truck Series, making their first starts here, and they're already making a move to the front.
Looking to get up into the race lead, getting that help from McDermott. Will he jump down? They're both going to jump down. They're both going to be able to get in front of Madden, but you're going to leave the high lane lead to Jake Miller. I don't know if that was the greatest move.
Well, I mean, it was either have Jake Miller leading the outside lane or have Jake Miller behind you, and for some of these drivers, that may be the better option, is to not have him behind you, but that's going to leave the 07 of Michael Madden to take it in front of Jake Miller, get the big push from behind, and try and get his lead position back.
Battling at the front continues. Madden on the high side with Miller now. Number 8 and the number 8 of Delgado and the 35 of McDermott on the inside. Austin Moore is right behind them. He's been kind of hanging up at the front here at the beginning portions of this race. Lap number 6 here. And Madden getting a great push into 3 and 4 from Miller. Miller is all over his bumper.
Yeah, Miller always very, very aggressive. Seeing again a very aggressive push to the back bumper, making sure he's nice and tidy on that back bumper. Gonna have to watch out, though. He doesn't have a lot of help from behind, and if he gets too close for too long, that truck could start overheating, and oh, it gets a little squirrely. Drivers dashing all over the place, but they're gonna hold on to it, but that's gonna leave that outside lane shattered.
High lane was building up a lot of momentum. Now they've fallen apart. Delgado leading the field on the inside with McDermott right behind him. The high side trying to get back together. It looks like both Henderson and Cottle have now jumped to the inside lane, which leaves the 3rd spot of that high side to Emrod, Matthew Rodriguez.
Yeah, look at that driver up inside the top 5 from the 26th starting position. Elliot Henderson already making a lot of moves to get himself towards the front of the field. Was interested to see with a couple of these drivers that we know historically are very good in this series starting further back, how quickly, or if they even decide to at all get to the front of the field. Elliott's one of the ones that said, all right, let's get to the front as quick as possible, and he's done a good job of that.
Elliott's making his moves to the front there. You see the onboard look at Mr. Henderson as he's driving through the field up here in the top 10, trying to get to the top 5. Elliot Henderson, can he snag a victory here at Daytona? I know he's going to try to compete for the championship once again this season in the 37. Just wasn't quite able to make the Final 4 last year.
Yeah, it's just narrowly missing out, as we're once again seeing a battle at the front of the field as the outside lane has once again gotten organized up again, with Michael Madden and Jake Miller being 2x2 against each other, looking to make the moves. They were just ahead for a little bit, but Madden decided to stay with Jake Miller on the outside lane, and I think he sees some speed out of it as he gets a huge push through the tri-oval. I think he might just about be clear, and yes, he is in front of the 8 car of Adolfo Delgado. That's going to leave Jake Miller around the outside, and I think this is exactly what he wants.
Miller now leading the high side. Madden now leading the inside with Delgado right behind him. Matthew Rodriguez, he's going to give a shove to Jake Miller down the back straightaway. You got the number 84 right behind him as well, of Sean Farr making his first start. What can he do up here? It looks like Henderson and Austin Moore are going to jump up to the high side. That's not too surprising with those 3 being teammates, being Austin Moore, Elliot Henderson, and Jake Miller.
You know, one thing I'm surprised that we're seeing here, Kyle, is a lot of separation between sections of cars. I mean, we're seeing the top three stacked on top of one another. We're seeing two cars like we're seeing with Elliott and Austin Moore tagging together, but everybody else has got some pretty big gaps between each other. And I'm surprised to see this here at Daytona.
A lot of gaps on this racetrack. I don't know if that's just necessarily drivers taking it easy here in the early goings and just trying to keep their trucks 100% until the end. That would probably be my best guess, or maybe it's just the way the setup is working for these guys around here.
Yeah, well, the way it's working for those drivers on the outside lane is that they seem to have an advantage, but anytime that leader dips down to the bottom, it's almost like the outside lane just suddenly disappears and they need to work it for a few laps to get it back going again. Let's see if it happens once again. If Austin Moore gets clear, will he take the bottom or will he stay with Elliott? Right about now, he's clear. Is he going to take the bottom? I don't know. He's still got a good push from Elliott behind. He's going to stay with him. That's going to keep that outside lane moving for the moment. The bottom lane is going to battle back in the corner, but I don't think they can hold him off.
E95 trying to take 1, 2, 3. They're 1, 2, 3 on the high side right now. The 91 of Moore, the 37 of Henderson, and the number 4 of Miller. Madden gets a bad bump, goes into the grass. He's going to save it and come back onto the racetrack. And that front 3 of E95 jumps down to the inside, exactly what they wanted.
That was a very rough bump there from Adolfo to that 07. It really unsettled him. Luckily, he was able to save it, not involve any other cars, but Michael Madden has fallen through the field, now stuck in the mid-pack, and I know he's going to want to find his way back up. Now we've got a pretty much 6-car single-file line at the front of the field. Can the outside lane make their way back up there?
The outside lane is going to have to find a new leader, and right now their leader looks to be Sean Farr, the number 84 machine, as everyone's just really trying to settle out. It looks like Ross is going to drop to the back on the inside. Oh, they're making some moves back there. Look like Henry dropping down to the inside with Barkuski. Now the number 99 of Nicholson and his teammate of Christopher Heller jump to the high side for 25-11.
We've really got to watch and make sure and see if this ends up becoming a single file lane ever at some point, because those drivers who are hanging around the back looking for a caution, if they go single file, it's going to be worst case scenario. They can't pass and nobody's going to really wreck, but so far it doesn't seem to make a difference as there are moves being made through the field. Adolfo takes the outside, but he's got a big charge from Nicholson and Heller around the outside to give him some help. The outside lane is back in the race. Nicholson looked to try to take the outside there, but is going to stick behind that 8 car.
Looks like Miller is going to be the one to jump up to the high side in the number 4 machine. Austin Moore thought of it, jumped back down in front of his teammate Henderson. Miller on the high side, Austin Moore on the inside. He's getting a great push from the number 8 of Delgado through 3 and 4, and Miller might take the lead here coming to the start-finish line.
I mean, if there's any driver to point out who might be the strongest one so far in this race, it would have to be Jake Miller. He's just been relentless at finding his way to the front of the field, pretty much taking every single opportunity he can to get to the front. But the problem is we've already seen him in a couple close calls, and any more of those only needs it to be an accident one time for him to be taken out of this race, and that's a driver I'm watching at right now.
The action's up here at the front at the moment. The back's fairly calm. They're single file for the most part. This top like 15, 16 drivers right here, neck and neck, just battling hard to get those positions. And Austin Moore currently leading the field with the help from Henderson. But Miller continues to fight back on that high side with the help from Delgado.
Looks like that bottom lane is holding off pretty good, though. Normally, you'd see that outside lane really make some progress through the tri-oval. Gonna have to see out of turn 2 if they really make a big run for it. But so far, the push from Elliott onto Austin Moore is seeming to keep them at bay.
They're doing a good job on the inside right now, just maintaining their position. And Miller jumping up to that high side could have been a strategy move for E95 as well. I remember last season at Daytona, Dark Horse was doing a very similar thing. It didn't end up working out in the end, but for a good portion of the race, they had the front 3 or 4 positions and were kind of blocking both lines where someone from Dark Horse was leading every lap. There's Austin Moore blinking out. I remember he was blinking out a little bit in his heat race. hopefully he can get that fixed, especially while leading the field. That's really going to hold up that inside line.
Yeah, we saw it almost immediately, that outside lane, once Austin Moore started having problems. Immediately, that lane pretty much died because Elliott didn't want to get too close. It's too risky to have a driver like that flashing in front of you. Is if you get inside of them when they blink out, they're gone. And I think Austin Moore is pulled out of the way. That's going to allow that bottom lane to get going again. Let's see if Elliott works together as well with Adolfo here and can keep that bottom lane rolling. But Jake Miller so far out in the lead.
Eric Kep wasn't quite able to snag onto that draft when the leaders passed him, and now he might go a second lap down because of that black flag. You hate to see it, but he's going to go to the high side right here in the tri-oval, and he's going to get passed by the race leaders, and now he's 2 laps down.
That's pretty much a game over there for Eric Kep. I mean, so far, he's the lead driver 2 laps down, and nobody's 1 lap down. So if we do get some timely cautions, Eric Kep could find his way back into this. But as of right now, things are not looking good of Mr. Pink. Oh, 3 wide at the front. Nathan Nicholson took it up the inside of Jake Miller, leaves him out to dry around the outside with Christopher Heller following suit.
Nicholson with the aggressive move, going to go to the race lead in the number 99 machine, possibly with the help from his teammate of Christopher Heller. Nicholson back at 25-11 racing this season, and he's looking to possibly compete for a championship. Very close race to the line right there, but it looks like that Nicholson led that lap, so he'll get a point for leading that lap. And he has Heller right behind him.
Yeah, that's something a couple of these drivers could be looking at as well for those doing the long haul of the full season, is that you want to get out there and lead laps, as there are points to be had for leading laps, and please correct me if I'm wrong, leading the most laps as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to make some points out here by just staying at the front of the field.
And definitely many points opportunities here at the front of the field, especially at a track like Daytona, where the lead flip-flops about almost every lap, so you can get up there and try to get points when you can, and that's what these drivers are trying to do. And some of these guys, like Delgado, possibly trying to maybe lead the most laps. Delgado's been up here at the front of the field for a good portion at the beginning of this race. Number 4 of Miller as well.
Well, driver who was out front since the beginning of the night, Michael Madden, we saw him fall back a bit earlier with a close call between him and Jake Miller. He's kind of found his way back up there on the outside lane. Now currently the second car on the outside, as that lane is almost entirely gone away as they go around the left
Oh, and
car.
Henderson gets in the back of Delgado! And Delgado's going to go through the grass! Oh, another
ahead!
Jake Miller, McDermott, Madden! Oh, and it looks like somebody's flipping. It looks like Foz now, who won the Cup race here last year. Christopher Heller, all the heavy hitters, and Zachary
Josh
Henry
Cottle
cruises
involved as well. Oh, we were talking about all it took was just a little bit. I was mentioning for Jake Miller, all it took was 1 close call becoming an accident. He'd be out of it, and right there, that truck looks decimated.
It all started with these drivers trying to pass what looked to be the lap car of Gotham, who was on the inside. And when they adjusted to make that move around Gotham, Henderson and Delgado, it looked like Henderson just wasn't quite lined up with the bumper of Delgado and gave him the slightest bump, and it just sent them both into the grass and started this whole chain reaction. Everybody behind him was just trying to react and try to get back in line, and there ended up being heavy contact in 3 and 4 between a bunch of different drivers. Here's the replay here.
As you see right here, they're going around the lap car, and Adolfo takes the hard left to go back towards the bottom. Elliott wasn't ready for it, trying to give him a push. They made contact, but then just ahead, a separate accident at the front of the field takes out most of our strongest trucks here in the race tonight, and those who hung around the back have paid off.
I want to look at this. I didn't really get a good look at it the first time because I was so focused on Delgado. Let's see what happened here. It looks like Miller maybe had gotten into McDermott, some close racing there, and they made contact. And then Madden with the heavy hit. And look at Foz now. Foz now goes for a hell of a ride in that 16 machine, flipping a couple of times.
Yeah, but we also saw in the frame there a couple drivers who had been hanging around the back or even the mid-pack for some of these guys. managing to avoid it and taking minimal, if no damage whatsoever. But I think we're riding on board with Jake Miller here, right at the head of the accident. Kind of looked like, from my perspective, that he was going underneath the 35 to McDermott here. McDermott kind of took a bit of a left hand, and yeah, from the cockpit, that's kind of what it looks like as well. And oh, look at that ride that Jake Miller has on two wheels. Almost went over and still making contact with drivers. But I believe after this, he just pulls the tow hook out and calls it a night.
Yeah, very heavy accident for that number 4 machine who won his duel number 2. We're gonna take another look at this right here. It kind of looked like that McDermott turned down and Miller was already committed to that bottom lane and he couldn't slow down in time for that 35 machine and just stacked up after that. It looks like Rodriguez took a decent hit as well. And Henry, I don't know if he got any damage from that. I don't even know if he touched anybody. That was awfully close if he never touched anybody in that number 12 machine.
Well, looking to go
I'd like
over
to take
his...
on board from him, to be honest.
Yeah, looking to go over his vehicle. Looks like he's got some left front damage, as you could see right about there. And I believe he did get into it, as we saw. He was in significant frame with that accident, getting the onboard here of him on the outside, right where the wreck happened. He starts slowing down. Oh, he most definitely had to have gotten some damage from that one, and that's probably the left front damage that we're seeing currently on the vehicle.
You can see it right there on the onboard. The left side of his hood is just pushed up a little bit. These trucks can take a little more than some other vehicles on the super speedways, but we'll have to see how badly that damage is going to affect him. I can definitely see with the number 12 machine, he's going to definitely struggle in clean air, but in the draft, he might be able to be a good pusher and be able to make those slingshot moves. But other than that, he might struggle throughout the rest of this race.
Yeah, I would definitely worry, as these trucks, when they start to take some damage, especially in the front end, they really lose that straight line speed. So he's going to be struggling for the remainder of the night here. But one driver that I was talking about was going to need a bit of a timely caution to try and get back into this thing. Eric Kepf got the wave around that last time by. He is now one lap down, I believe. No, he's in the pit lane right now. It looks like he is still 2 laps down, so something must have happened, but with him, that he is not currently on the lead lap. But that's a driver that I thought would try and make his way back into the race. Sadly not able to.
It looks like he has some damage, and the way the rule works, if you get any sort of damage, any sort of involvement with the incident, you're not going to get the lucky dog, and he has a pretty decent amount of damage on that 63, so he must have been part of the incident.
Well, that's the driver we saw start on the front row of this event, get a penalty right at the start, and on my personal cameras looking at it, he did definitely get involved, actually right in the middle of the accident. So that's a driver who's kind of knocked out of it, as we're ready to go green.
I'll take the green flag once again, and a lot of the field isn't quite set up here, and it looks like Nicholson's going to get a great restart in the 99. Woodall left in the dust, and Henry, I don't think Henry came down to repair that truck at all.
Yeah, he's sitting there in the 3rd position behind Nathan Nicholson. Those two were working pretty well together last year, even if they weren't technically teammates. But, hey, those two, I imagine some great things from them if Zachary Henry's got a good enough truck underneath him. But as of right now, that outside lane has got some good momentum going.
The outside lane moving here at the start with Woodall with the help from the number 25 of Barkuski. And it looks like Sal's right behind him in the number 55 as well, making his first start.
Yeah, a bunch of new faces here because of that accident at the front of the field. We see the couple familiar ones of Nathan Nicholson, Lewis Woodall, been at the front pretty much since the beginning, but you know, newer names that had pretty much sat in the mid-pack to the backpack have now found their way to the front, as so many strong contenders have been taken out of this event.
Just to go over the drivers that have exited the event because of that accident, you have Matt McDermott, Josh Cottle, Sean Jensick, Michael Madden, and Jake Miller, our reigning champion, have all exited the race because of that big accident in 3 and 4.
Yeah, and again, all very, very strong contenders that might end up needing the points for a couple of them there to try and make the playoffs later this season. I know Daytona kind of is a wild card and can be a, lose all or gain all kind of
Oh,
race, but
Henderson trying to save it. No, he won't. Gets into his
no!
teammate out of all people, Austin Moore. Briar Fritz. Oh, man.
What a disaster. Briar Fritz in that neon truck that went by just ahead, furious over the radio from that accident. Elliot Henderson, another driver, good at the beginning of this race, made his way through the field so quickly in just a matter of 5 laps. He was in the top 5 with a big accident here in the tri-oval.
And I don't blame Briar Fritz for being upset. You're going to see the instant here momentarily, but Henderson's losing the race car, and it looks like he's just trying his best to keep up his speed. But I feel like at that point, especially when you're in the middle of the pack, you kind of just have to hit the brakes and take your loss where you can. You're going to see it right here. Almost loses it a couple of times, and just trying to keep up his speed. Gets into his teammate, gets into Fritz. Looks like Giles got a hit out of it. Hansen with great avoidance in the 41. It looks like Hansen dropped to the inside.
I also saw Heller as well get a little piece of that at the same time. Brockman luckily sneaking by on the bottom, but he has damage from the last accident. But again, another chunk of good drivers at the beginning of this race involved in this, and this time because they were stuck in the mid-pack.
We are going to take an onboard look at Delgado, and just doesn't expect Henderson to slow up that much. Look how much damage he gets from that bump to Henderson too. Massive nose and front end damage to this machine as well. Delgado, who's been up at the front for a good portion of this race. I'm going to try to take another look at it here from another vantage point, but you hate to see it for someone like Austin Moore or Briar Fritz, who just trying to keep it safe and got caught up in that incident. Here's Heller's onboard look here in the 11.
Yeah, Heller narrowly missing the 31 of Briar Fritz there, getting away with that one, but we already see he's got plenty of front end damage that's pretty much killed him for the night. And that's something that I've seemed to notice with these vehicles, is that they go on the racetrack, and once you make some contact to that front end, no matter how minor, it seems to make a significant performance impact in a straight line. And well, this racetrack is essentially a 2.5 mile long straight line.
I'm just while you were talking, I'm just over here listening to the radio, and the banter back and forth between these drivers continues. Fritz very upset on the radio. We'll have to see if that maybe carries on to other events or what the case may be. But for now, lap number 27, I'm not sure how much damage these drivers got as well. Looks like Fritz might still be in pit road. Yeah, he's in pit lane at the moment right now, trying to get some repairs on that 31 machine.
Yeah, well, we see right here Eric Keff getting his lap back as sadly the damaged vehicle of Briar Fritz sits there on pit road slowly, and I mean slowly, repairing damage. But to go back on your comment about the drivers talking to each other over the radio, you can't really do that in real life, so these guys are taking advantage of it here on iRacing, where they give you the ability to do that, and by gosh, some people are angry when they do it.
Yeah, that's the cool difference between iRacing and real life racing. Real life racing, these drivers have to kind of hold it in the whole entire race, and at the end of the race, they can go find that guy on pit road. Here, they can take their anger out immediately on the radio and just talk and just banter back and forth. And you see it a lot on the iRacing service, whether it's an official or here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. Great Lakes Truck Series has a lot of drama, and here at Daytona, it continues here. Very good race so far, but drama already starting here before halfway.
Oh, plenty of drama, and there's only bound to be more. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at Daytona International Speedway. This is the king of drama racetracks to start the season, no less. Pretty much the biggest race for most series who run Daytona as the starting race. You want to win this race. The most people are keeping your eyes on you right here, right now. And when something happens to you here at Daytona, oh by gosh, does it carry on through the entire season.
You know, this is the crown jewel here of the Great Lakes Truck Series. This is the biggest event of the season, really, here at Daytona. Everybody wants to win it. Everybody comes out for it. I'm pretty sure every race that I've at least commentated here for the Great Lakes Truck Series at Daytona, it's usually a full field, usually 40, 43 cars, something along those lines. Always a full field. Everybody wants to win at Daytona. It's just so special, especially when you're in a league like the Great Lakes Truck Series. Winning at Daytona makes it that much more special.
Oh yeah, I mean Daytona, no matter what series you win in, seems to be a bit special. There's just something about this place that makes you really want to win. It's surprisingly easy, yet surprisingly difficult to get a victory in, and those drivers who can manage to stay up front for most of the time, or the drivers who could always manage to get to the front when it matters, are always the drivers that seem to end up having the better skill throughout the entire season.
They're coming through turns 3 and 4 here after caution number 2. Nicholson going to lead him to the green flag on the inside of the number 99 machine for 2511 Racing. And his teammate, it looks to be the number 25 of Brandon Burkuski on the outside. And down the outside, right behind him, you also have another 2511 driver, Zachary Henry. But then you have the newcomer, the number 55 of Sal. And Pace Truck comes on pit road, and green flag is out for Nicholson. And Nicholson, with a great restart in the number 99, gets a couple of truck lengths ahead of his inside guy, and that's going to get Burkuski to get to the inside.
Yeah, big jump there for Nicholson. Normally when you see the leader like that, it really leaves him as a sitting duck, but as Burkuski falls in line behind him, he's not really going to be left out to dry nearly as bad. The driver I'm surprised is holding their position is Zachary Henry with that damaged front end, is managing to hold the lead on the outside. As I say that, he dives behind the 99 of Nicholson. That leaves Shane Niswonger to lead the outside lane, driver we haven't seen all day.
Niswonger and Curtis up there on the high side, and right behind them is RJ Williams. 3 drivers we haven't really talked about throughout the event up here at the front. All of a sudden here on lap number 30, approaching halfway here momentarily, but Nicholson leading the field with his 2 teammates of Henry and Burkuski right behind him in second and third.
And these drivers in a 4-car lineup here, almost becoming a 5-car lineup as DuPont falls in line behind them. Gonzalez looking to fall in line behind them, and it's just starting to become a train around the bottom. That outside lane has really got to get themselves organized if they want to make any progress. But the one advantage that they do have is something that happened just right there. Big checkup on the inside lane is going to allow that outside to get some big momentum to make up a lot of positions. They're going to be looking for more of that to happen.
Watch to see if any drivers maybe jump out here. I'm watching maybe Saul Solemn, and maybe he'll jump out in that number 55 machine. And he will actually stay on the inside, and Curtis will lead the high side with the help from Williams. And here comes Delgado. Now, the number 8 of Delgado, I was pretty worried about his damage, but here he comes back to the front with the draft.
Yeah, incredible. After getting that front end damage, that he's able to hang on to this pack, even being the 3rd car in line. Normally, that much front end damage pretty much takes you out of it. But as that lead on the outside lane grows bigger and bigger, Adolfo falls in line and makes up as many positions as he can. Trent Curtis is going to stay with RJ Williams around the outside while it's still safe, but that bottom lane is going to want to battle back.
Going back and forth between the inside lane and the high side. On the inside, you have Nicholson. On the high side, you have Curtis. Does anybody try to maybe get a 3rd lane started here and try to make some moves to the front?
3rd lane here is, we already saw it try and start in the heat races a little bit. Almost every single time it happened, we saw an accident ensue no less than a lap or 2 later. Don't know if these guys want to be risking it that early in the race. We're only on lap 32, ladies and gentlemen, and we're already seeing this kind of action. Ooh, you best watch out for what's coming in another 30.
Just to update you on Christopher Heller and Elliot Henderson, they seem to be really struggling with that damage. Henderson currently 1 lap down. Heller has lost the pack by a couple of seconds here, and it looks like Nathan Jump has as well. That damage is really affecting those drivers here. Hate to see it here in the first race of the season, but I know drivers, especially like Heller and Henderson, are going to be back next week at possibly Rockingham and compete for the win.
Yeah, that's the lucky part for I guess some of those drivers that got wrecked is they know they have the ability to go to any racetrack and contend for the victory. So while they may lose out here at Daytona, they're not entirely done for. They always have the potential to get a win, nab themselves into the playoffs, or just purely point their way in as the season goes on. As man, this deadlock at the front of the field is really becoming tough as that outside lane is starting to disorganize just a little bit, and the bottom lane's looking better and better, especially as they catch the lap cars just a bit ahead of them. That bottom lane's going to get a lot of draft from them.
Yeah, that inside lane is just working so well. The front three all being part of 2511 Racing. They just seem to be working so well together on that bottom line. The number 99 of Nicholson, the number 12 of Henry, and the number 25 of Barkuski working very well on that inside lane. And you're talking about how that outside lane is getting disorganized. They just don't seem to be working too well together at the moment. RJ Williams up here, though, a very strong driver, and I know he can give very strong pushes at super speedway. So I'm not quite giving up on that high side yet.
No, it just looked like a couple times there they would get a lot of momentum going, and then they would start to lose that kind of single file line that they had going around out there. They're looking a lot better this time, but it looks like the 84's fourth car in line kind of falls out. Now, luckily, you only really need about 2 or 3 cars to really get a lane moving, and they're starting to pull it back on that inside lane as Trent Curtis side by side with the 99 of Nicholson in the turn 1.
Here they come up on the lap cars of Elliott Henderson and Matthew Durr, who are way off the pace because of their accidents. Two very strong drivers early in the goings, and they're going to get passed by our race leaders here coming down the back straightaway.
Now they went to the high side. That's going to be a big advantage to Trent Curtis and RJ Williams as they're going to get a large draft going down into 3. They weren't able to utilize it surprisingly as the outside lane powers ahead through turns 3 and 4. But they should be able to pull it back here going through the tri-oval, and yes, they will. I'm just surprised neither of these lanes are truly winning out yet.
Back and forth battle between the inside and the high side, and the inside's kind of broken up at the moment, not too close together, and Curtis has that inside lane clear. Does he jump down in front of Nicholson? He looks like he's going to stay up for now with RJ Williams and Delgado, but that inside lane's pretty separated. They're not very close together right now at the moment. And those front 3 on the high side are very close together and working very well at the moment. Curtis looking to jump down to the inside, and he will, and RJ Williams will now lead the high side.
Oh, that may have been a big mistake there for Trent Curtis as that outside lane was moving, the inside lane was gone. But as of right now, he's still holding on just a little bit, but RJ Williams could clear him. He might try and take the bottom here, but man, that outside lane is just suddenly started making a lot more progress these last few laps. Will Adolfo taking to the outside? Yes, he will. That's going to put RJ down to the bottom. And as this keeps happening and happening, drivers are going to start shuffling their way up and down the field.
Now I'm a little worried about that high side. We'll see how it happens here, but you have to keep in mind Delgado does have that front end damage. Right now it seems to be working pretty well on that high side, but it's just something to keep aware of and watch out for on that high side. Getting a good push right now from the number 13 of Lewis Woodall as they're approaching another lap car, it looks like, here momentarily through 3 and 4.
And now Adolfo finds his way to leading the bottom lane. Again, I'm just baffled that front end damage is not affecting him more. But now, Lewis Woodall leading the outside lane. We saw him luckily be ahead of that big accident we saw just about 13 or so laps ago. And now these drivers are finding their way back to the front of the field who were at the front earlier on.
Right behind Woodall, you have the 57 of Matthew Rodriguez, and then right behind him, you have Aaron Duclos. We haven't talked about him all day. Used to be a full-time driver in the Great Lakes Truck Series, has been missing in action for a little bit, but now he's back here at Daytona looking to put on a great performance.
And a nice new black paint scheme, no less. A bit of a shift in colors for that driver, but the real thing we should be talking about right here is, once again, the front 2 on the bottom and the outside are in a bit of a deadlock here, as no lane can seem to fully win out just yet. That outside lane really needs to get organized, as I feel like right now, because of whatever is going on with the tire or the fuel or what have you, but that outside lane seems to have much better pace than the bottom.
High lane looks strong at the moment with Woodall leading it. Delgado leading the inside lane. Looks like Gavin Fitzgerald has entered the conversation. He's gotten up here. Looks to be driving in the 7th position right now in the 14 machine with Sean Farr actually on his high side. Looks like they're gonna go past the lap car, the 29 of Nathan Jump right there.
And look who's behind Lewis Woodall as well. Yeah, Matthew Rodriguez. Again, I said a bit of a dark horse here at the super speedways. He's got a pretty good amount of ability here at these kinds of racetracks. And we saw him a little bit up towards the front in the heat races and kind of showed his hand a little bit earlier on in the race, but didn't really get too close to the field. And when that big accident happened, he completely avoided it. So that's a driver that's pretty decent at these kinds of racetracks with a brand new vehicle underneath him.
Woodall was thinking about dropping to the inside in front of Delgado right there. Wasn't quite clear. Approaching another lap car here as everybody's switching lanes here in the front of the pack. And Rodriguez is going to jump up to the high side. I think I heard him on the radio said he wanted to drop to the back, and that is what he's doing. But that lap car is right in front of him. He's going to drop back down immediately. It looks like Michael Sensi in the number 92 all the way up on the high side. Actually gets into the wall a little bit.
Rodriguez must have heard me talking about him and wanted to make me look bad, so now he's going to go to the back of the field and get away from everything again. So there was Matthew Rodriguez, ladies and gentlemen, and now the outside lane is led by, I believe that's the RJ Williams in the 21. Had a bad angle there for a second. Now he's going to try and take the lead around the outside as Lewis Woodall moved down to the bottom after Rodriguez fell to the back.
Woodall leading the field here at Daytona International. And that number 13 Pepsi Ford on the inside. Delgado right behind him. Leaving the high side now is RJ Williams in the 21 with the help from Aaron Duclos in the 97. Trent Curtis and Sean Farr still right behind him.
Man, I feel like if you want to try and get your way to the front of the field and stay at the front of the field, I think you just have to be on that outside lane, because we saw earlier in the race, Nathan Nicholson was leaning pretty comfortably on the bottom, but now he's buried back there outside of the top 10, no less, because he stayed on the bottom. So I think if you want to get to the front and no less stay out front, you got to build a lane around the outside of guys willing to commit to you.
Pretty well at the moment, just back and forth between the inside and the high side. This is how it's been for quite a while now. Not either lane really able to get the upper hand on the other one. A lot of separation behind these front two of the lines right now.
Yeah, again, we're seeing this multiple times over where both the top lane and the bottom lane seem equally as good, but after a little while, that top lane just shoots past them. And something that I noticed, especially this week, as iRacing was recently at the Atlanta Super Speedway, as we like to all call it now because of its reconfiguration, is that top lane, after a certain amount of laps, would start being the dominant lane, and it just seemed to be a matter of the heat building up on the race car and the amount of speed you could carry around the top. Differences we're seeing here is we're seeing leaders constantly change around the bottom that allows them to hold on for a little while until that car in second starts to heat up.
High lane's falling apart a little bit here, though. A couple of drivers moving down to the inside. It looks like there's only now 5 drivers on that high side. You have RJ Williams, Duclos, Farr, Fitzgerald, and it looks like Rodriguez is that 5th driver on the high side. Rodriguez is now beginning to fall back as well. High side kind of falling apart here, and everybody jumping down to the inside lane.
Well, there doesn't seem to be as much help on the bottom either, as it's really only the top 2 cars. Trent Curtis behind is leaving almost a car length gap between the front 2. It just doesn't seem to be that aside from 2, maybe 3 cars, nobody really seems to be able to run against each other.
I think I heard a couple of guys come on the radio that they might be coming down pit road. I think I heard Trent Curtis and Nick Hansen might be coming down pit road this time to open up the pit window here, and here they come. It looks like Sean Farr might be coming down pit road as well. A couple of different drivers. Curtis, he's going to lead him down, coming down very fast. He's going to get down. I think he just got under the pit road speed limit, just barely there.
I think that was just about perfect there, Kyle. Right on the money with the mile per hour.
Decent amount of drivers stayed out as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that definitely opens up, the opportunity for some of these drivers, as we saw a lot of them make pit stops either when that caution came out around lap 19 to 20, or later on with a secondary caution that happened after that with Elliott Henderson. And so we're seeing the fuel window be around just about 20 laps or just under 20 laps. It really depends how much throttle you had in it over the run.
A lot more drivers coming down pit road this time, and a couple stayed out as well. A couple of them almost looked like they faked coming onto pit road that time by very crazy onto pit road. Only a couple of drivers came on that time. I think only 4 or 5 came on. It looks like Henry barely got in his box up against the wall, the 12 machine. Woodall still leads the field in the 13 with Delgado and Duclos right behind him.
No, see, this is the most interesting part of super speedway racing for me, is when we start to get around to green flag pit stops. It really breaks the field up by massive amounts, and you really get to see who's a good pusher, who works well together, and who can organize the best, as you'll eventually see that there's going to be a few guys out front that either pull away from the field, or you see a bunch of guys who had poor pit stops but run really well really pull up to the guys who are in the lead. And so we're going to see who's the fastest guys in this field after these green flag pit stops are done with.
Watching these drivers on the track, I'm looking at the laps remaining. So these drivers are going to have to make at least one more pit stop to make it to the finish of this race. One more pit stop for the remainder of the day. The drivers that are still on track, like Lewis Woodall and Delgado, that have yet to make this pit stop, they're going to have to make this one plus one more till the end of the race, a little past halfway here in the Patti Engineering 200, the season opener for the Great Lakes Truck Series. Going to see if these drivers come down pit road this time by, or will they skip by again? It looks like they'll skip by again. All these drivers up here look to be on the same strategy right now.
Well, I think most of these cars up here at this front part of the pack had pit when Elliott Henderson wrecked after the first big accident we saw. Most of the guys who came down just now might have pit during that first big one, but didn't pit on that second caution. It could be why we're seeing such a difference in lap times here on where these guys come in for fuel.
I'm just trying to keep over at the lap times right now and see what's the second pack, the drivers that already came down pit road, what are their lap times looking like? You have Nathan Nicholson and Zachary Henry back there, and it looks like a couple of these guys want to come down. Only Delgado's going to come down. Moore wanted to come down, but no one came with him. So now Delgado is all by himself, and that's the last thing you want on green flag pit stops.
Now, if he times it right, he could be a little bit lucky and pick up a bunch of other people who kind of on their own out of the pit lane, or possibly pick up that second pack. It all depends how quickly he gets out of the pit lane here. Sounds like Ashton Lawson, the 24, coming down the pit lane. Eric Kepf as well coming down the pit lane. They're all right there in the middle of the pack, right there in the back half of it. But these leaders so far have not said anything about pitting in. Margellotta being the highest up car to say it.
See some separation up at the front. We'll see if maybe some of these guys come down pit road. I think I just heard Austin Moore might be coming down this time. And it looks like everybody's coming down, including race leader Lewis Woodall, and Duclos is really going to send it in there, and he's going to take the lead onto pit road and just get under the speed limit, I think, of the 97 machine.
I mean, that was a phenomenal pit entry there for Aaron Duclos. Pretty much made it just about perfect, maximized those brakes, and as long as he has a solid pit stop here, I didn't see him overshoot the box, he should come out as the leader, which might be what you want during these green flag cycles.
So he's going to come out of pit road first, and just I was checking the times up until I saw that with Delgado, but Nicholson and then we're going around a half second faster than these leaders. Henderson's actually going to be the first one out. He is a lap down, trying to maybe get one of those laps back the old-fashioned way, and Duclos almost turns it back onto the racetrack, trying to get up to speed, and they're neck and neck. Madalena's to the inside. This is racing on the outlap here.
They're racing in the pit lane, and Elliott really wanted to get out front there, because if he could get out front, get one of his laps back with a well-timed caution, that could completely change his race altogether, as he was 2 laps down. If he could go back to 1, that would be perfect for him. But it looks like these drivers don't want any of it as Madalinas and RJ Williams go by as that secondary pack has caught up to the field. Nicholson, Henry, and Barkowski in a 3-car line. Here they come for the lead around Madalinas and RJ Williams.
I thought you said they were going to separate, Alex.
Well, we're seeing some of the better, faster drivers make some momentum. And Nicholson, Henry, and Barkowski made a lot of momentum as they had to check up on the inside lane for the lap cars they were going by. And that's going to really give that outside lane some speed.
It just looked like the lap cars weren't quite sure where they were on the racetrack and where the leaders were. Just a lack of awareness. Nathan Jump and Christopher Heller are able to jump to the inside and let the leaders by eventually. But it really held up Madalinas. I heard Madalinas getting on the radio just saying, check up, check up, check up, check up, because he was worried about Williams getting into the back of him right there.
So far, the drivers who pit a little bit early have taken the lead here, and with the way the fuel's working out, I don't think we're going to be seeing much fuel saving, as they should only have to do one more pit stop and pretty comfortably make it to the finish. And so, I don't know how much racing we're going to see between these guys, as they might just want to run as quick as they can and try and stay ahead of the guys who just pit.
Yeah, these drivers can make it around 20 to 21 laps on a tank of fuel. So I expect the pit window to open with around 20 laps to go. We'll see if drivers come in right when that pit window opens, or maybe wait a couple laps. Me personally, I would wait a couple laps, maybe 17, 16 laps to go, then come down and make that final pit stop in case we get a green-white checkered here at the end.
Yeah, I mean, well, luckily, I might end up jinxing it here, but usually when we get green flag pit stops, when we get to that point, we don't see nearly as many cautions. They become very uncommon because the field starts to separate out. Now, the problem is, during this pit cycle, everybody seemed to somehow come out pretty much right on top of each other. So, I'm just saying, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah, I'm looking over here at the numbers, and it looks like the only drivers that really lost the draft here were James Shiflett, Ross Brockman, Nick Hansen, Aiden DuPont, and Sean Farr, and they're all around 15 to 20 seconds behind this lead pack, and possibly could go a lap down before the end of this race.
And unfortunate for those drivers, it's really hard to execute pit road here at these super speedways, as these things are not built to slow down and accelerate from a stop whatsoever. These are not short track style vehicles. They are trimmed out. They have very low brake pressure. Their torque is not really set properly in the low gearing, as they're supposed to be rolling on the restarts. So it becomes very difficult, especially on old tires, to really negotiate pit road, and that's where we see some of the better drivers really gain a lot of positions and end up where we're at right now, where we see pretty much our playoff contenders at the front of the field.
I was talking about this race team earlier. They were so dominant at Daytona last season, and they're looking to continue that this season in the 4th, 5th, and 6th place. It might have a 25-11 versus Dark Horse battle here. You have Cody Giles, Shane Neiswanger, and Hunter Brittle in the number 10 machine on that inside, right behind the 325-11 drivers.
Well, that doesn't look to be the battle right now, as if you're looking at that outside lane, the drivers who just pit more recently, RJ Williams, Hunter Madalinas, Fitzgerald, and Rodriguez, are making a lot of momentum around that outside. They've gone from the 7th to 8th cars in line to the 2nd row, and they might make it to the front here through the tri-oval. Those two working phenomenally together.
There's probably nobody in this field who's more hungry for a win than that number 9 machine of Hunter Madalinas. Season 4 was the win leader, 6 wins in season number 4. Season number 5 came into season number 5 as a championship favorite. Ended up going winless and missing the playoffs in the number 9 machine. Well, now he's on a new race team over at E95, and we'll see if maybe he could start off the season with the victory and change that bad luck that he had throughout last season.
Yeah, last season was definitely a big disappointment for Madalinas. So pretty much almost Harvick 180 in terms of performance, but he's hoping to, unlike Harvick, fix his performance issues and really get back to victory lane, and he's doing a good job of it right here. Pretty much working single-handedly with RJ Williams to keep that outside lane with any momentum, as there's no help behind him.
There's no help right now behind the number 9 machine. You have Gavin Fitzgerald and Matthew Rodriguez who are trying to work their way up to those two. They're a little farther back, but then on the inside, those 3:25:11 drivers have been just working together nonstop pretty much for the last like 30, 40 laps, even before we had those pit stops. They've been just working so well together, those three in particular.
Yeah, I mean, those three have pretty much been glued to each other most of the race. If there's been a combo of drivers we've seen be the best so far in this specific race, it's those three, Nicholson, Henry, and Barkowski, as pretty much they've all together been a strong force at the front of the field, but the new combo coming through with RJ Williams and Hunter Madalinas is really making a difference, as now they're getting to get some help behind them, and that's seeming to make the difference, as there they go, just ahead of Nathan Nicholson. Not clear yet, but they're gonna be soon.
They were around they're battling for second or third a moment ago, RJ Williams, but now with Gavin Fitzgerald and Rodriguez, with their a little bit of extra help, Williams trying to get to the race lead, trying to take it away from Nathan Nicholson in the number 99 with the help from Madalinas. Looks like they might have another helper on that high side back there. I can't tell who that is back there, but they're trying to get more people up here on this high side. It looks to be Delgado, but they're just trying to get this high side where it was before pit stops.
And it's looking to run good as well, as these drivers still have quite a few laps before they have to come down the pit lane again. And a couple, more surprising drivers. I'm not going to mention the driver fourth on the outside because we saw what happened last time with him. But Gavin Fitzgerald just ahead of him, looking to shine a bit of light on himself here in the midway portion of this race.
Little over 20 laps remaining. I said the pit window opened with 20 laps to go. We'll have to see if drivers begin to come down pit road with 20 to go, or if they wait a couple of laps. And it looks like Williams and Madalina's going to drop to the inside. That's going to leave the high side lead to the 14 of Fitzgerald, who immediately falls back to Rodriguez. Woodall's up there as well, helping out. It looks to be Duclos up there. Delgado up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much just killed that outside lane, as those two drivers were working phenomenally together. But I know the driving of Nathan Nicholson, and I think he knows as well. He's got two guys behind him willing to go with him. I would not be surprised if he takes that outside lane very soon, as I know he wants to lead a bunch of laps here today.
It looks like to me that Fitzgerald's car is not working well in the clean air, because that high side is falling back very fast right now. Just not doing very well in the clean air. I've talked about this earlier with Zachary Henry and Delgado. They were able to work well in the air with their damage, but the 14 machine just seems to not work well in that clean air with his damage. He needs to be behind somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say that there looks to be some right side damage on that vehicle, which, again, I was surprised that the front end damage on some of the vehicles we saw today was not affecting them nearly that poorly. But this is normally how the damage affects the line. It really seems to cause whoever is behind that leading car to struggle to make any progress. But right now, they seem to be kind of stalled out around that 7 car. They haven't really fallen too far back from that. Interested to see if they start working on it, if they could start making progress.
One thing I wouldn't be surprised to see, you see those 3:25:11 guys, they just keep on trying to get to the front, keep on trying to work together. They have the space right now for those three to jump up to the high side and maybe take the race lead back. So that's something I would watch out for, especially since we're getting very close to pit stops here.
I think that's the thing, though, is they might not want to get the lead if they're coming to pit stops, because they know the two guys in front of them do not have to come in at the same time as them. They could wait significantly later, so they might not want to be on the outside of them if they can't clear them all the way. They might want to just sit in line until they make the pit stop. And I stopped talking for about a second, and here comes the outside lane. I was talking about it, waiting to see if they were going to start making some momentum, and here they come. Gavin Fitzgerald with the help of Matthew Rodriguez making some moves around the outside. They're gotten to the quarter panel of Hunter Madalinas, but can they make it to the front?
Looks like their fourth driver in line, Delgado, got himself into the wall a little bit there. Now they're going to begin to fall back a little bit again. Can Fitzgerald maybe make another run at it on the high side with the help from Rodriguez and Woodall up there?
That was a big piece of momentum that they had. They were really making some progress, and here they come again. It seems like down the back straight, they've really got some strong pace, but once they get through the rest of the racetrack, especially down into turn 1, they start to lose a lot of that pace. Not sure if it's something to do with how they negotiate themselves through the tri-oval, but they've really got to tidy it up if they want to keep making that same kind of progress. Oh, and here comes RJ Williams very early to the pit lane. I believe he pitted around the same time as Hunter Madalinas, so I'm surprised to see them come in that soon.
It looked like it might have been a team thing because Lawson came down as well. So did Eric Keff, and so did Barbagelata, all of them coming down the road. So I think that was a spectrum thing, a planned out thing for all four of them to come down pit lane. But his three teammates were at the back of the pack, and he was leading the pack.
So that is definitely a big strategy at the end here, is teammates are going to try and work very, very well together. And if you trust them, if you believe them, those are going to be the guys making up the most progress. I mean, all you really need is 3 or 4 cars to really get a big lane going with a lot of momentum. And that's a 4-car team, I believe. So they should be making a lot of speed.
Like Fitzgerald had stayed on the track for Spectrum, being up on that high side in the number 14 machine, getting help from the 57 of Rodriguez up on that high side. Woodall not too far behind him. Here comes the 55 once again. Sell him.
And you know what's coming to the pack as well is a whole nother pack, but not a pack that they want to see. A pack full of very damaged cars. They're just ahead of the leaders here. And they're going to be coming up on it very soon, and it's going to get very, very tight, as I believe I saw them about 2 wide ahead. But never mind, here comes 2511 with Lewis Woodall as well, and plenty others behind coming down the pit lane. This was going to be a big pack with a lot of momentum once they come out of the pit lane.
A lot more drivers come down pit lane. It looks like Fitzgerald and Rodriguez are trying to come down pit road this time by.
I also thought I heard that Fitzgerald wanted to come down the pit lane as well, so we could be seeing pretty much everybody behind him come down at the same time. So here we go. This is going to be the game-changing call here. Can they get out of the pit lane at the same time? I'm watching all the drivers who just came out of the pit lane. It looks like Duclos actually took the lead out of all of them, and that's going to make an interesting dynamic. But let's watch out of turn 4 here if they negotiate themselves to come all out of the pit lane at once. Here they come, the hard left-hand turn, and that's every single person in the lead pack, but just ahead of them in the pit lane is a lot of damaged vehicles. They're going to have to watch out their pit exit, as pretty much every other car who just pit is now on the racetrack on the back straightaway, and they're making a lot of progress, but some of the cars who pit early, those Spectrum drivers, also making a lot of progress. This is what we're going to have to be watching here.
And it looked like Hunter Brittle almost made contact with Henderson pulling into his pit box. He ended up overshooting his box a little bit, and he might end up losing the draft. You see him there at the very end, right before the camera switched. He might be able to hang on to the draft, that number 10 machine, but lost a lot of positions.
I don't know if you, the viewer, just saw it, but you saw as they were coming down towards turn 1 on the apron. Here comes the field at full speed. There's already drivers that they're passing, trying to make their way off the pit lane. Rodriguez, the first car out, but he's got no help behind pretty much. But guess what else is behind him? A lot of damaged cars. Could be a bit of a buffer for him to try and get in line here, because currently he is our race leader, but there is a big head of steam coming from RJ Williams and Lewis Woodall.
Rodriguez out in front. Here comes Williams and Woodall. And Shiflett has to make way. Very close call there. Gonna get past Hansen as well, and Shiflett squeezes them. Oh my gosh! And forward to the tri-oval. There they go.
There it is, Kyle. Big wreck. Oh, they're gonna save it. No, they will not. Big wreck through the tri-oval. Oh, I was getting worried about it, and it ended up happening.
right here at the end of the race, pretty much right after pit stops. Look like Cody Giles was involved. Saul Solomon was involved as well, it looked like. A lot of good drivers. I think Hunter Madalena's had some contact in there as well.
All right, now what I want to figure out here is who was the leader at the time of caution, because we had a big wreck, but when the caution came out, RJ Williams was in the process of passing Matthew Rodriguez, and this could be a big difference for who may end up winning this race.
Take a look at the replay here and see what happened here. Going 4 wide into the trial, it looked like just a lot of slow cars coming up at one time, and the drivers that coming off pit road and the drivers that already made pit stops all at the same time. Very, very crazy racing here coming through the trial, and the worst place for everybody really to get together. It's almost a guaranteed accident in a situation like this. And you just see everybody trying to make way, and Barkuski looks like he gets in the door of Hansen, and they just kind of stack up there. Henderson gets hit in the door as well by Barkuski. Just pretty massive accident going through the trial. We'll take a closer look at it here. Looks like Nick Hansen he took the first hit, and it was a very big hit. Just went a lap down recently as well in that 41 machine. Here we are going to take another look at it from Hansen's vantage point, possibly here on the high side. Here you see Barkuski getting to the side of Hansen, and then Matthew Durr right there, and they all just kind of stack up. Hansen and Durr goes over there, and it looks like that's when Madalenas and the number 9 got involved as well, and William Barbagelata spun around as well.
Yeah, it kind of looked like some really poor timing for the field coming by, as those damaged cars they were passing were also making a pass on a car on the outside wall, and they were 4 wide at the point of contact, and that's exactly what happened. Is Barkuski essentially got into a car just trying to get around another lap car, and it spelled disaster for that driver.
Yeah, looks like the caution came out. I think we're trying to take a look to see maybe when the yellow lights come on, but Rodriguez is your race leader, so he had a slight edge over Williams when that caution flag waved here for caution number 3 here in the late goings. And you were saying that that could possibly decide the winner of the race, and it very well could be right there, Alex. It's going to be difficult to make these moves, especially the way this draft has been working throughout the day. It's just really hard for one of the 2 lanes to be dominant over the other.
Yeah, and especially on those restarts, especially with this new restart zone, it's very, very hard to try and do the traditional super speedway restarts we used to see, where drivers would wait till the green flag and restart to make sure the driver behind him got organized. Now the leader almost every time gets a big jump, and they could pretty much just decide to run the top or run the bottom, but the biggest thing is that the car in second usually finds their way to the bottom lane, and that just helps the leader out even more.
We're going to end up taking possibly our last restart, but the way that these drivers have been racing here the last few laps, I could see at least one more caution, but possibly the last restart here with a little under 10 laps to go. Do you just go for broke at this point, Alex?
I mean, there's no sitting back anymore. You can't risk it running cleanly to the end. You just have to go for it. If you get wrecked, you get wrecked. But you're not going to make up all those spots sitting in the back. Now, if you're a driver that year in, year out is on the fringe of the playoff bubble, you might try and sit in the back and salvage points at the end, but the best remedy to being on the fringe of the playoffs is getting a win and locking yourself into the playoffs. And no better than are some of these drivers full-time at the front of this field looking for a victory to start off the season, knowing that they're going for a championship.
Lights are out on the iRacing pace truck, and we're going to go green flag racing with 9 laps remaining. Matthew Rodriguez leads the field on the inside in the 57 machine. Remember, we are going by the restart zone here. He has to restart within that restart zone in the number 57. On his outside, you have the number 21 of RJ Williams. Right behind the 57, you have the 13 of Lewis Woodall. On the outside of him, you have the 99 of Nicholson. But don't forget about his 2 teammates of Henry and Barkuski right behind him. And Gavin Fitzgerald has been looking strong. And William Barbagelata, you can't count him out anywhere we go, especially the super speedways.
Well, okay, this is what I'm expecting to happen here on the restart. Could very well just not happen and completely prove me wrong, but what I'm seeing from every other restart so far this race is that the leader pulls out, second place drops to the bottom, and then those bottom three become the bottom line, and then the top has to figure it out. Now, different to every other restart is we have teammates on the top behind our leader on the top. So Nathan Nicholson most likely will end up leading the top lane, and if not, he's most likely just going to take it 3 wide anyway. So this restart is going to be extremely intense, as there's going to be some strong lines on both the top and the bottom.
We'll have to see what happens here on potentially the final restart of the night here in the Patti Engineering 200. Here comes the pace truck down pit road, and the 57 has entered the restart zone, and the green flag is waving for Matthew Rodriguez. A good... Oh, and Nicholson immediately turns down across his teammate. Into the grass he goes. Austin Moore goes as well.
Disastrous timing and execution for 25-11. Nathan Nicholson takes himself out of it. No caution, but no, there is, as a driver was stuck on the outside wall just a minute ago. And oh my goodness, what a disaster for Nathan Nicholson with less than 10 laps to go.
I just don't really know what Nicholson was thinking there. I know he wants to get in front of his teammate, but there was absolutely zero space there, and turned himself across Henry's nose, and Henry just has more damage now as well in the number 12 machine.
I mean, what I could imagine they were trying to do was try and let Nicholson in line ahead of Henry, but it was just so poorly executed in that moment. He just took a left-hand turn and just kind of turned himself. I can't really say too much more about that.
Like, it wasn't even close for Nicholson. Like I said, I don't see what the plan was there. I know he was trying to get in front of his teammate, but there was absolutely no space. He pretty much has a donut on his driver's door. Like, that's how far along Henry was on the side of the 99 of Nicholson. Just I think he was just hoping his teammate would slam the brakes for him or something, but just not a great move from there. And let's see what happened here in the back here. It looked like they got stacked up on the high side because of this, and that maybe had it might have sent Austin Moore to the inside with contact from far. We'll have to see here. Oh, he actually makes contact with Nicewanger and then kind of sends himself to the inside in the number 91 machine, and they just kind of stack up behind there. And Nicewanger with heavy damage on the right side, and it looks like it just kind of stops on the racetrack. That's why we got the caution. I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, that was just a roughly timed moment there. You know, race administration wasn't exactly sure whether that truck was going to end up being towed away in time or not, and they threw the caution kind of preemptively. So, I mean, we're going to get another restart. We already saw how that one went, and it was definitely a very interesting one, but we've got another one to go. Matthew Rodriguez still our leader, but now Lewis Woodall in the second position. Saw a bit of different execution that time by RJ Williams. Was not able to get clear of Woodall on that restart, and I'm interested to see if that outside lane has that happen again.
I have to see what happens here. We're actually hearing from our producer Jeff that actually he misshifted and blew his own engine, and that's why he actually stopped on the racetrack, because he just misshifted on the restart, and that's why the big checkup happened. We're going to take another look at it here, and you're just going to see Shane Nicewanger just completely almost stop on the racetrack right in front of Austin Moore. Take another look at it here. Take a look at the number 49. He's that white and blue machine right there on your screen with the 49 on the side, and it looked like he might have tried to shift into third and shifts into first. Blows the engine, goes straight into the wall, and just a lot of cars end up getting caught up in that.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is called a money shift, because it is very expensive to fix. Do not do that in your own car, as you see what happened right there. Well, back to the race. Matthew Rodriguez, our leader, once again has another restart to try and retain that lead position, now with some drivers kind of mismatched behind him from what they were before. less threat from 25-11 to try and take the lead away, with Nathan Nicholson now lost out of the top 5.
I know Rodriguez, I think he was telling us a couple days ago that he was probably going to do part-time over here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, but now he's probably rethinking, maybe going full-time, because he might end up with the victory here today.
Well, that would definitely be fun to watch him try and accomplish here. He's been very inconsistent, at least he has been the last year, but Super Speedways is the one place where he is very consistent. He usually runs very, very well at these kinds of racetracks, kind of knows how to negotiate them. And if he does decide to go full-time, I'd love to try and see his improvement on other types of racetracks. See if he becomes a possible contender in the future.
We're going to get this restart here after caution number 4 with 5 laps remaining. Matthew Rodriguez leads the field on the inside. On his high side, you have the number 13 of Lewis Woodall looking for his first career win here tonight. You have RJ Williams in that 3rd position in row number 2, right behind Matthew Rodriguez down the high side of him. You have Brandon Burkuski, then you have Zachary Henry and Gavin Fitzgerald, and a lot of other drivers still competitive for this win.
Yeah, plenty of drivers still in contention for this win, and plenty of them that have been up front most of the day, other than the one big accident we saw in lap 21 that took out a lot of the early contenders. Pretty much ever since then, most of the front of the field has essentially survived. Surprisingly, with Burkuski, after the incident we saw earlier, he managed to come through that and is still inside the top 5. So even with you getting damage, you might not totally be out of it, as there's plenty of drivers up here with some damage that still have some solid pace.
Here they come off turns 3 and 4. The pace truck's going to pull down pit road, and they're going to have 5 laps remaining. They're approaching the Geico restart zone. The 57 is going to lead him to the green, and there he goes. There goes Rodriguez. A good restart from him. RJ Williams not too far behind. Burkuski's going to drop down to that third guy, be the third guy on the inside. That's going to leave Woodall with very few help. He only has Fitzgerald behind him. Curtis a couple truck lengths back. That high side is falling back quickly.
And this is dangerous for those two up front, as if those 25-11 cars get clear on both of them, they're going to try and take it to the outside, but Woodall is just pinning Zachary Henry down. They can't get clear yet. That might leave a little protection for at least RJ Williams to try and just push Rodriguez as much as he can to try and hold those positions. But here comes the outside lane with some good momentum there from Lewis Woodall. Got one of the few clean trucks here at the front of the field, and here he comes, RJ Williams. He's going to try and block him. He's going to be able to. Woodall was not able to get around him. He's going to push him to the front of the field, but the bottom lane is not done yet.
Yeah, Williams was barely able to squeeze in front of the 13 of Woodall. Now he's just trying to control the 2 lines. Rodriguez almost gets to the door of Woodall there in 1 and 2. But Williams trying to control both lines, trying to control the inside and the high side. He has no one up here that's really willing to work with him like that.
Yeah, Woodall, man, he's just got so much speed in that vehicle right now, being able to lead that line. A little bit of a high entry there, swings out very high, but if this pays off, that straightaway speed coming out of turn 4 here should be very great. Here they come with a big push from Gavin Fitzgerald. He's going to try and get to the quarter panel of RJ Williams, and once he does that, he should be able to hold on to him just a little bit, but man, it's so tough here at the front.
3 laps remain here at Daytona International. Do we get another caution, or do these guys decide to finish it under green? RJ Williams leading the inside, Lewis Woodall leading the high side. At this point, does someone really try to make that third lane work? And right when I say that, here goes Curtis. Curtis goes to the high side with Lawson, and they're going to try to get that third lane started.
Almost 2 1/4 laps to go for these drivers. Lawson's going to leave Curtis around the outside. There goes Trent Curtis towards the back. It's now down to 2 lanes, but Lewis Woodall pushing ahead for the lead. Is he going to clear RJ? Oh, not yet. Gavin tries to go to the outside. He's right there in the right rear. 3 wide behind him as Hunter Brittle takes it to the middle. Gavin left around the outside to dry, but there goes that top lane just from that.
I think he was thinking maybe his teammate Lawson would jump out to help him, but Lawson stays behind the number 10 of Brittle. And now Fitzgerald has to drop back in front of Curtis behind his teammate Barbagelata. Woodall still leads the high side. Williams on the inside.
Oh, this is going to be a strong fight to the finish here between RJ Williams and Lewis Woodall. I'm pretty sure that outside lane has got more progress. We're coming out of turn 4 here to head to the final lap. It's a dead heat between that 21 and 13 car, but the outside lane has got the momentum with Hunter Brittle pushing. But look at all these new faces here right at the finish. Ashton Lawson takes it to the outside. Here comes Mr. Excitement to go with him. Or we might get 3 lanes here at the finish. Zachary Henry looking to help that middle lane. These drivers are going nuts here on the last lap.
Little over a half a lap remaining. Woodall leading that high side. Can Woodall get his first career victory here at Daytona? With the help from Hunter Brittle in the middle lane, and Brittle and Williams go around. And we're going to keep green.
We got to look at the front. Lewis Woodall.
Woodall leads the field. Lawson on his high side. Henry's pushing Woodall, and they're going to make contact. And Woodall might drive away with the win. Can Lawson get to him?
Lewis Woodall. He's going to win. He's going to win at Daytona. Lewis Woodall is our winner.
And Lewis gets that first career victory at Daytona International. And that's already the feel-good story of the season. Lewis Woodall finally snags that first victory. He had some points last season where he's shown that he had improvement as a driver. And Woodall able to get the job done in that Pepsi machine at Daytona International. No more special place to get the victory than right here at Daytona. Lawson comes home second, and Brandon Barkuski comes home third. But Lewis Woodall, he is your winner.
Wow, what a finish there. A driver who progressively over last season got better and better, and starts off this season with a victory. Could this be a sign of things to come? As tonight, he was very, very strong, and I'd love to see how his season goes on now that he knows that he's a playoff contender.
And I'm looking at Zachary Henry right now, and the effort from this guy. He's currently still trying to finish the race. He's rolling at 3 miles per hour trying to get to this finish line right now. There he is. He has a blown motor, and he's going to get help from his teammate Christopher Heller to get to the finish line here. I don't know if this is against Great Lakes ruling, but Zachary Henry going to finish this race here. But what a performance from Lewis Woodall. Was up there at the front battling for the lead for around those last 15 to 20 laps, and ends up coming home with his first career victory. He's fought hard for it, and he gets it here in the season opener at Daytona. No better place.
Yeah, absolutely incredible race to the finish there. I thought Lewis Woodall was a sitting duck after that accident with all the drivers behind him on that bottom lane. I thought Ashton Lawson just got a free victory, but out of nowhere, Zachary Henry with a mega push and then contact to the door of Ashton Lawson caused them to hold off just enough to give Lewis Woodall his first career victory here in the Great Lakes Truck Series in an absolutely blistering finish.
I feel like one of the most impressive things about that is Woodall didn't necessarily have to battle anybody. Everybody behind him just started getting into each other. He just had to keep it straight, and he ended up going to victory lane in the number 13 machine, showing this last lap once again, and just one of the greatest last laps I think I've seen in Great Lakes competition. Just a very exciting last lap here, and a very deserving driver of his first career victory here tonight. Got to be happy for Lewis.
And we will hear from him soon, as we are going to try and go through some of our drivers who finished in the top 3 tonight. Feel like we should go ahead and start with third place before we get to the more and more excited or dramatic stories here at the finish. Brandon Barkuski, one of the few drivers here at the front of the field tonight who ran consistently the entire time. You came away with a third place finish, had a big accident there leading on to that final 10 laps of chaos with the lap cars. I mean, your race was all over the place, and here you are in third place. What happened?
Just kind of survived. Just like the guys in front of me. It pretty much was just a crapshoot and all luck there, honestly, at the end. The lane I was in was so slow, even Zach left me, and I don't even blame him for doing that. I probably would have done the same thing. So it was just luck of where the cars went. They went out of my way, and I just held it wide open and just got through it.
Now, one of the stories, of course, because it's a plate race tonight, was the story of the teams and all these new teams, the new drivers, and obviously you brought in this season Nathan Nicholson onto the team, and you, Nathan Nicholson, and Zachary Henry ended up working together very well for the last half of the race, and seemed to be the dominant group. I mean, tell us what that coordination was like there, and how much did that affect your performance?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said it. I think Zach is the greatest teammate I've ever had, and Nicholson, we had him before on 2511, so the gel was definitely already there too. So, I mean, I think the chemistry with our team is just good, and there was a little bit of a miscommunication. We're going to have to watch back. I think on the second to last restart, I think Nicholson had assumed that Zach was going to give him room, and he actually came down on him. So that was one thing we kind of made a little slight hiccup of judgment. So we'll have to watch that back as a team and just kind of figure out how we can better ourselves going forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are going to be some woes bringing new people in, even if they've been there in the past. You got to bring everything back together. So, how are you feeling about the season here with 2511 and the driver lineup that you have?
Yeah. So we actually have two teams now. Obviously, 2511 is pretty much stacked top to bottom. And then we have a couple guys who are new. We have such as Aiden DuPont. He's running with our Front Rage RDT team. That's our little development team that Nick Martin and Matt Daniels are co-owning. And I'm really excited about what Aiden's going to be able to do. We're going to look at his progress at the end of the season compared to where he was running, and I know he's going to be so much more consistent. So that is really our big project this season is getting him to be up to speed and up to par. He has kind of been a lone wolf in the league, and no one's really reached out to him to help him. And we kind of took that upon ourselves, Chris and I. We gave him an opportunity, and I think he's going to relish in it.
All right, well, excited for things to come here in the future of 2511 and your development programs. Congratulations on the finish tonight. It was definitely an exciting one to watch up here. Lane's constantly going back and forth, and you were part of a lot of that action tonight. So I hope you enjoyed it, and congrats.
Yeah, congrats to Lewis too. I think he's the first international GLR winner, so that is awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna be excited to listen to him here later on. So thank you for coming into the booth, Brandon, and great talking to you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, the driver I thought was about to take the victory there at the finish, Ashton Lawson here finishes second place, an almost painful second place watching Lewis Woodall drive away from you. I thought you had it there coming through turns 3 and 4. Tell us about your perspective of that entire last lap.
All I knew is if I don't get up and go top of 3, I'm going nowhere. So made my move on the front stretch and was hoping for something crazy to happen that didn't involve me, but got clipped by Zach and had to keep it straight out of 4 and gonna get back to him.
Yeah, and unlike the other two drivers we're going to be talking to tonight, you were a driver kind of staying more towards the back end of the field, staying out of a lot of the action, trying not to be in the middle of where the chaos happens. So, how did you feel the strength of that strategy was? Because obviously here you came away with a second place finish, but as well, there were a lot of drivers around you who were up front almost the entire day.
Yeah, it's just I'm relying on getting up there at the right time and not getting caught up in an early wreck and killing the car before I have a chance to go for a win.
All right, and of course, I have to ask, how easy is it to pass around here? Because I saw the draft act very interestingly tonight, where two cars could pretty much on their own hold an entire lane. So I was interested to see from your perspective how easy it felt to pass.
I think it was easier to pass overall, but the runs weren't as quick and as fast as they usually were. So changed up the style of the race a little bit.
All right, well, it's definitely an interesting thing to see what had happened tonight, and so sorry that you were that close to the victory, but we've got another guy over there that's waiting to celebrate very loudly, but regardless, you still came away with a second place finish, a good points finish there at the end. So congratulations on that, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you.
And of course, the most excited person here in the booth tonight, Lewis Woodall, our winner tonight at Daytona with an absolute barn burner of a finish once again here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. How are you feeling, Lewis?
Sorry, it is 3 a.m. I gotta keep this as quiet as possible, but I am ecstatic, right? I'm over the moon. Like, I know my voice. I'm trying to keep it quiet, but I'm ecstatic.
All right, well, we're
God.
dealing with a quiet interview here tonight, so don't worry, I'll make up a bit of the volume here tonight. But I mean, you were one of the drivers that pretty much the entire night wanted to lead laps, wanted to stay out front, and how difficult was that to do? Because I've talked about it a little bit with Ashton Lawson, who had to try and make his way through the field, but in your case, you had to stay at the front of the field. So how easy was it to stay at the front, and how did you have to deal with the draft?
The hardest things to do, especially with this group of guys. They're all fantastic racers. Every one of them. RJ, I couldn't fault any of them. So it's you just gotta try and stay at the front as much as possible, because if you get back in the pack, the more spots you lose, the less chance you got of getting back up front. So you just got to try and fight for every spot, even on a super speedway race, because every spot you lose is another guy you have to pass later on, which is easier on a super speedway, but it's not. It's a distance to the leader as well, you know.
And, you know, the one thing I wanted to ask you specifically is, because you were at the front of the field, I wanted to ask you what it was like dealing with a lot of the new names tonight. As we saw a lot of the regulars at the front, but every now and then, especially early on in the race, we saw a lot of brand new faces coming into the league and running very well. So how did you feel that a lot of those new names fit in with the Great Lakes Truck Series?
I didn't see any bad driving from anybody. It's sometimes difficult. Like there were a couple of guys. I think the 8 was one of them. You get up behind them in the draft and you're not really sure how they're driving, but you watch them, you learn, they're driving fine. Like it takes time to gain trust with those newer drivers, but after you've raced around them for a little bit, you get more comfortable and just racing around them and knowing what they will do in situations. And it's what you're going to do with super speedway racing.
All right, and especially because you're a winner here tonight, you get the exemplary privilege of having the special sponsor shout-out moment here. We saw a bright, shiny Pepsi on the vehicle. So who do you have to thank for tonight for this incredible victory?
I would say Pepsi, but they don't actually pay me. In fact, I pay them a lot of money, so no. I just gotta shout out my family, especially my granddad. My granddad got me into NASCAR racing, IndyCar racing, Formula One racing. He sadly passed away, but he was a guy who really got me into the American style of racing, as opposed to the more European. And he obviously got me into British touring cars and all that as well, but yeah, he was the guy who got me into the American style of racing. And obviously the rest of my family, dealing with me yelling at 3 o'clock about how I'd won a race.
Well, it's always fun to hear some new faces, new perspectives with a unique, I've not heard this one before, quiet interview at 3 a.m. But hey, it's always great to talk about your first victory. So congratulations on that, Lewis Woodall, and I'm excited to see how the rest of your season
That's
goes.
first victory with an asterisk.
Come on. Come on. It's a victory regardless.
No. First is the asterisk, not the victory part. The first part.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
It
either
is technically
way,
my first victory.
we're locked into the playoffs. We're gonna have
Let's
a great
go.
season. So I'm excited to see how that goes. Congratulations, Lewis Woodall. Fantastic to talk to you,
Thank
even
you
if
so
it was
much.
quietly.
Thank you so much.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our winner, Lewis Woodall, in a unique style of interview. Kyle, how'd you feel about that interview?
Best interview of Flatout Racing Network history.
It might be a record, ladies and gentlemen. It's the quietest and best interview at the same time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our race here at Daytona International Speedway. Phenomenal stuff going on, and I think next week we've got a unique change in racetrack, wouldn't you say, Kyle?
Yep. Next week we go to the Rock, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. I would like to just talk about the schedule just a little bit before we go. We didn't really get a chance to really talk about the upcoming season 6 schedule, which is a very interesting one. Definitely the most interesting schedule I've seen so far. We got Daytona, of course, that we just finished. Next week we go to the Rock. Week number 3 we go to the streets of Long Beach. Week number 4 we go to Bristol Motor Speedway. And week number 5 we head all the way over to Twin Ring Motegi. That should be an interesting race there as well. Week 6 we go to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Week 7 we go to Canada to visit Montreal, Circuit Gilles, Villeneuve. That should be a fun race there. Week number 8 we go to the home of the Snowball Derby, 5 Flags. Then week number 9 to finish off the regular season, we go to Texas Motor Speedway. Now let's get into the playoffs. In the round of 12, we start off on September 20 at the Talladega Super Speedway. Then we go to the road course of Watkins Glen up in New York. And then we head to Kentucky Motor Speedway to finish out the round of 12. Then to start off the round of 8, we go to Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway in week 13. Then we head to Hickory. I think that should be a really fun race, especially in the playoffs. And then to end out the round of 8, we go to Homestead. And then week 16 in the final 4, it'll be we've been going to Atlanta the last 2 seasons, but you were talking about it earlier, Alex. It's kind of Atlanta Super Speedway now. We're going to finish off the season there.
Yes, it's gonna be fun because we saw how Super Speedway Racing went here tonight, and Atlanta is just a souped-up, insane version of it. So that's gonna be an absolutely crazy one to end off the season.
A fun season ahead, season number 6 of the Great Lakes Truck Series. Who will get the job done this season? I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to today's broadcast. Any last thoughts before I send it out here, Alex?
Last thoughts is keep tuned in because there's plenty more of this to come.
I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to today's broadcast. And next week, we'll be going at the exact same time, same place here on the Flatout Racing Network. We'll be going to Rockingham, the Rock, in North Carolina. That should be a lot of fun. An old-fashioned racetrack, a very different racetrack that a lot of these drivers probably aren't used to. So that will be a lot of fun. I'd like to once again congratulate Lewis Woodall on his first career victory and winning the season opener and locking up a spot in the playoffs for season 6. And we expect to see you all next week here on the Flatout Racing Network. Have a great night, everybody.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.